Today we're talking winter squash, how to grow it, store it, and enjoy it later. Hello everyone, here we are, midwinter. The solstice is behind us and we are getting excited for our spring planting, and it got us thinking maybe we'd share with everybody our favorite foods to grow and to store and to enjoy all through the winter. And we're going to start with one of our absolute favorites and most versatile, and that's the winter squash. As you can see, we've got lots of different varieties that we've tried over the years. Recently, we have landed on red kuri or little gems. They have different names for this one, but essentially they are a tiny little thing that looks just like a pumpkin, but it's a squash, and they taste delicious. They're super easy to grow. After the first frost, you get these things in the ground every few feet, 3 or 4 feet, because they produce quite a few, and they grow they span out quite far. So you'll just want to have a few feet of space and stick them just about an inch into the ground and water. That's it. And then you will see them grow. And they do great ground cover. So after you've done all your tilling for your garden space, they will do a great job of keeping the weeds down. Nature's band-aid is to put weeds wherever there's bare soil. So planting pumpkins in your areas around your corn and your other vegetables will make great ground cover. So no matter what kind of space you're dealing with, even if you plant a couple of these, it'll produce quite a few little squash. It's one of my favorite things is to go out in the morning. And if you don't have bees or a lot of bees and pollinators in the area, you do want to pollinate these guys. It will maximize your yields, but it's fun. The Q-tip is the easiest way to do it. We go around and you just swab the male flower, and then you take the Q-tip over to the female flowers and you swab the female flowers. And even if you have bees, we do it. We keep bees on the property, but we still help pollination just to make sure. And it's kind of neat because you'll know if the plant was pollinated, because the next day the female flower kind of curls up and closes, and then you'll start to see that pumpkin form underneath, and then you know you've got food. So the red kuri we found to be the most versatile when it comes to your foods and the amount of different dishes you can create with this. So we stick with one. You will have cross-pollination issues. We learned this the first time as rookie gardeners years and years back. We grew a lot of different squash alongside of each other and ended up with some really mutated looking things, like 3-foot long zucchinis that looked and tasted like pumpkins. And yeah, it was a real mess. So definitely find one you like and stick with it. Each year, try a different one. And if you have a lot of space, or if you have greenhouses and you can isolate, you can certainly try different varieties. But your bees and your pollinators will cross-pollinate these species. So you've got your pumpkin pollinated or your squash pollinated, and you're excited to get it picked. You don't know when. Super easy to tell. Obviously, they get nice and big and bright in color, but the stem itself will start to stop drawing water. And when that stops drawing water, it'll start to slowly twist and start to harden and turn woody. And that's when you know they're ready to go. And essentially, you just grab it and twist it, and it should just pop off on its own if it's ready. If it gives you a good fight, there's still a lot of water in there. It's still drawing water. That means the plant's still growing. You're going to want to leave it for another couple of days and check back with it later. And then when you're done, this is what it is. And you'll see that the stem is good and woody, almost looks petrified, no greenery in it anymore. Okay, so you've successfully grown your squash or pumpkin, and you want to store it and you want to enjoy it months into winter. You'll want to take these guys and find a good south-facing window or a nice bright sunny window and harden them. Typically about a month in the window will cure the pumpkin or squash and allow you to stick it in a cool, dry place. We keep these right in our dry storage or in our cabinets here, and it'll keep for months. Now, there are cases sometimes where it might start to rot or it got bruised, and it starts to rust. So you want to check them from time to time when you've got them stored. Make sure you don't have any soft spots or bruising. And if you do, you're going to want to process that one right away. Whether you make some dog food with it or some chicken food, or if you just want to, process it and eat it yourself. If it hasn't gone bad, then do that. We typically, if it's gotten too far and we didn't catch it in time, we will process that into dog food, mix it in with some rice or whatever, and mix it in with the dog food. The seeds all go to the rest of the animals. We grind up the seeds and they go to the chickens and the dog, and anybody that'll eat them on the homestead will, get the anti-parasitic benefits from the pumpkin seeds, as well as all the other benefits you get from eating pumpkin seeds. You can eat them after you've picked them, but it's not recommended. Just like a fine wine or anything else, the longer they sit, the better they get. Obviously they can't sit forever, but you let them sit for a good few months in the dry storage there, and you will find that it is the sweetest thing. You won't even have to add sugar to these things when you're making your pie filling. They are that good. Okay. Now you want to enjoy your squash, which we do quite often. Super easy to cook with and work with cooking, and so many different ways to cook them. We've just started doing a few different ways to cook them that we enjoy. Soups and raviolis and pies. This will be the best pie you've ever made if you enjoy pumpkin pie. Most of your pie filling in the store isn't even actual pumpkin. A lot of it is different squash varieties that they have pumped full of sugars and everything else. You won't need any of those fillers with these when you're making your pies. Maybe a little brown sugar to change the color profile, but otherwise, super easy to prepare. When you're cooking, you'll just slice these things in half and get a little bit of olive oil and seasoning, some salt and pepper on there, roast them in the oven until they're soft. And then that is your base for just about everything you're going to cook, whether it's raviolis or soups. It doesn't matter. That's going to be your base for just about any of the savory dishes that you can do with this. Your pie fillers, you'll still roast them the same way. You just won't be putting the olive oil and salt and pepper on there, obviously. Otherwise, you're going to have a funny tasting pumpkin pie. But the best thing that these things pair with, if you're looking to get into growing this year, or you want to add these to your garden and you're already growing, sage. Get your herb garden going, and the sage pairs with these things so well. The best thing to do is make a sage butter with your sage and add that into whatever you're making as far as your soup bases or your ravioli bases. Just absolutely delicious. So if you're wondering what to pair with your pumpkins, get yourself some sage in the garden and you'll be happy you did it. I won't go into the dozens of different ways you can prepare these, and we've only just experimented with a few different ones. So we'd love to hear from you guys if you have other ways that you prepare pumpkins. But one of our favorite ways is ravioli. And we water glass our eggs from our chickens. If you haven't gotten chickens, get some. It's the gateway to all of these wonderful things. But we take those water glassed eggs that we've preserved for months into winter, because your chickens won't typically lay into winter unless you've got a nice heated barn and everything else. But anyway, we take those eggs and a little bit of flour. We make our own pasta. We make the ravioli. The ravioli goes in the freezer, and we can still keep enjoying that pumpkin well into spring or later. Cooking with Chris. Okay, as mentioned before, we do a lot of food prep and storage, so we have invested in some equipment. If you're going to want to do the same, you'll want to get a food processor with a dough setting and a dough attachment. You can, of course, do it the old-fashioned way as well. So you'll get your 2 cups of flour and a teaspoon of salt. Get that mixed up. Quick blend. Now my Italian grandmother would be rolling in her grave if she saw us making dough this way, but we have a lot of other stuff to do. So get your eggs in there, 3 large. And you give it a quick blend. You'll notice it starts to get chunkier. You'll just want to keep adding a little bit of water at a time until you get that consistency of like a Play-Doh, to where you can shape it, but it's not sticking to your hands. And you'll see it starts to clump up as we add a little bit more water. And once you give it a good squeeze and you can ball it up and shape it like Play-Doh, you're good to go. And you can roll it out with a rolling pin. Again, we use attachments. We do quite a bit of this, so the faster we can do it, the better. And you're going to want to run it through that attachment or roll it out until it's good and thin. And you've got enough to fold over on itself for a full tray of ravioli. All right, to get your squash prepped, you're going to just cut it clean in half, carefully. And then get all those seeds scooped out and set them aside for later. They are great treats for your chickens and other animals on the homestead that need deworming. Get a little bit of olive oil in there and your salt and pepper. Once you got them seasoned, you'll go ahead and put them in a roasting pan in the oven for 400 degrees for about an hour. You'll want them to be soft enough where the fork can kind of slide into them fairly easy. In the description box below, you'll see what we used in our ingredients to mix the cheese filling. You can play with it and try all kinds of different stuff, all kinds of different flavors, parmesans, ricottas, all kinds of different cheeses. Have fun with it. You'll blend them together and mix it with the cheese, and you'll get this filling that you see here. And we put the filling, make sure you seal your edges with water. If you haven't got one of these little ravioli things, we recommend it. They're fairly inexpensive and make the work a lot easier. And once you got your filling on and you're capped up, they pop right out of there, and you can pop them right apart and stick them on a tray individually and stick them in a freezer. Let them get frozen before you stick them in a bag or whatever you're going to store them in. And this is what we do with our leftover dough. We run it through the pasta maker, toss it in a little bit of flour, stick it someplace nice and warm and dry for a little while, and you'll get yourself some nice quick pasta that you can throw some red sauce on, or butter and garlic, whatever you like. All right, so in case you're wondering, how much food will this tiny little thing yield? This right here is one of those little squashes worth of ravioli. Now, I haven't bought ravioli in the store in a long time, but I do know that when we were buying organic gourmet ravioli at the store, it was quite expensive for a bag. It's still very, very lucrative and money saving, and there is nothing but pure ingredients in here. Tonight, we're enjoying our winter squash in homemade ravioli with brown butter and sage. To get this recipe, please see the description box below. And we'll also share some of our other recipes. If you have some that you enjoy, your winter squash, please share them in the comments.